We always had a sort of policy in my family about conflict. If there's conflict, if we have something to work out, myself and a brother, right? That needs to happen within the walls of our home, within the safety of our family unit, and not out at some random dinner party with other strangers or whatever it might be. And I always really respected and enjoyed that. That's how I feel about this Biden discussion. It's something that is perfectly fair to be happening within the walls of our pro-democracy family. But if individuals are going to go on Fox News and get asked questions about this, they need to be very mindful about how they use their time on the Fox News airwaves. And that's what we saw the other day from Democratic Congressman Jake Auchincloss. And that's what you're about to see here from Democratic Senator John Fetterman, where he's on Fox News. The reason they're interested in talking to any Democrats right now is so that they can say, Biden competency declines, he's going to drop out. And if you're part of the pro-democracy movement, rarely are you able to go on Fox News. So use it as an opportunity not to lie about how you feel about that discussion wherever you land, but instead to quickly shift the conversation to a place where you can deliver messages that the Fox News audience rarely gets to hear. And that's really satisfying to see. It was so disorienting to the Fox host you're about to see here that Fetterman leaves him stunned into silence. All right, he just sort of, oh gosh, because he references a very embarrassing Fox News saga. But here is this.
Certainly different as well. So 2 questions. One, do you concede that? And 2,
I should say for context, they played a clip of Tim Ryan, who is a former congressman and former candidate for Senate in Ohio, and he is calling on Biden to drop out, and so they're asking him about that.
do you wish, if you could go back, do you wish and do you think that the Biden should be as forthcoming as possible about the health challenges that the president has?
Well, first, let me say that I'm not sure who really gives a shit what Tim Ryan thinks about the situation. I know it says former, so he's not really a part of it in that conversation right now. And also from this situation, let's just focus on where we're at. It's going to be a close race here. And now I'm concerned, and I think Trump is about Project 25. What's more about this, and why did he want to run away from that? It seems like it's the kind of election that we have that we have things more to be talking about, that whether these kinds of questions and that. What about Project 25? And it's going to be very close, and it's going to be competitive. And I'm proud to stand with Joe Biden. And I'd like to remind everybody here that Biden won, and it really was very costly for Fox, after they repeated a lot of the lies that Trump had after he lost.
Senator, wow. Donald Trump.
Yeah, so discombobulated there. Wait, did he just say that? Yes, indeed, sir. And I like too because it was a little bit abrupt. It wasn't the best segue to that point from Fetterman, but you can tell he just wanted to make it. And so it caught the Fox host off guard. Love it. Now, I just want to reiterate, and I think all of you get it. I don't know why I need these caveats all the time. I imagine some viewer who's never seen me before, and so then I feel like I need to explain everything over again. But this is not me saying that there's not a place for the discussion that's been had within our family walls, within this pro-democracy movement. All of us just wanting what's best. How can we defeat Trump together? Is that with Biden? Is it not? And either side of that argument should not be levying the, you're trying to help Trump by bringing this up. But what we are doing wrong, as Alan Lichtman has very clearly stated, is airing this dirty laundry out everywhere. Just publicly spewing it. That's not even going to really be the way that, if you're trying to get Biden to drop off the ticket, that he would be convinced. It's going to be behind closed doors in private. But we're just putting it everywhere. So what I love from Congressman Auchincloss, what I love from Senator Fetterman is not ignoring, but pivoting. And you'll see whenever Fetterman appeared on Jesse Waters' show, it's way more honest than you could imagine a Republican being about Trump, right? Fetterman is willing to say some negative things about Biden, but he's able to quickly pivot to, but also, if you're talking about how do we defeat Trump, I think we can defeat Trump whatever ends up happening, because he's running away from his own governing plan, Project 2025. He's a convicted felon. He's a civilly liable rapist. And the question I want to ask you, Fox hosts, is why do you not call for Trump to drop out? People in our movement are willing to be humble in our doubts. Your movement is a cult. What's up with that, Fox hosts? Why don't you call for him to drop out? Because after he lost an election, he lied so much about it that you started getting yourself into legal trouble over it. And he used those lies that you were telling and your colleagues were telling to justify trying to end our democracy by keeping himself in power despite losing that election. What's your problem that you can't have one single moment of introspection about whether or not he should be your party's nominee? That's my question, okay? We'll go have our conversation between our walls about what we're going to do, but I don't want to see you exploiting this moment of doubt for your political purposes, because the person you're doing it in the interest of is 10 billion times worse than Biden, with the worst assumptions we could possibly imagine about Biden, even if we went there. So that's what each Democrat should do if they have a chance to go on Fox News. But again, the honesty of these Democrats does give a lot of fodder to Fox News. And Fetterman here is willing to be transparent up front and say,
sharp as he was, America, it hasn't really changed. I know it went up a little bit, but already America has now realized that Joe Biden is old, and he certainly isn't as sharp as he was 5 or 10 years ago. Of course, that's a reality, but that really doesn't mean much for me personally about my supporting the president. And I really don't think I've seen anything that makes me want to change that. And I would like to remind everybody watching this is that I don't need a job. I don't need anything out of this. I'm not following him blindly. But I do fundamentally believe he's been a great president, and I do believe ultimately he can prevail. And that's where I'm at.
You could never imagine someone who's still supporting and endorsing Trump be that humble in their articulation of the issues people have with Trump, which is what Fetterman's doing in the case of Biden, saying, I get there's concerns, there's real concerns, and yeah, we've seen how aging has impacted him, but let me tell you why I'm sticking with him, which I think is a really honest argument if you're on the Biden should stay in. And he's also not demonizing people too much, I think, maybe he is, who disagree with him on the way forward. By the way, if I hear anyone, because of the controversies that have surrounded Fetterman in recent weeks, be mad that I'm covering this, I'm going to be upset with you. This happened with, I'm not even going to name the name, but I talked about someone who had a really good moment shutting down a MAGA person, and some people were upset that I even covered that person because of other bad things that person has said. Guys, I wouldn't be able to do any stories if it had to not just be about what was being said, but also the broader background of someone and all their other appearances. We got to focus on the points I'm trying to make based on these back and forths, okay? So just a lickety-split pause to request you, if you're not already, to subscribe to the YouTube channel by clicking that subscribe button. So easy and free, but it makes all the difference in the world. Appreciate it. Back to the video. But then you have this appearance also on Fox News.
You talk about the president being able to win, but is that the only measure here? Do you have any worries that he can actually govern if he does win for 4 more years?
I don't, because I've watched him for the last 4 years, and he's done incredibly good things. I mean, he got us through that pandemic that over 1 million Americans cost their lives through that. And look at our economy. Ours is the world's envy, economic kinds of power. And look at the stock market. look at all these other kinds of metrics. People were calling that it was going to be a recession, and here we are now booming on all of those kinds of things. So the president has done a really good job, and he deserves a second term. But I really do want to be clear. It's going to be very close. I've said this before, and that's not going to change.
Well,
Yeah, and I'm still stuck on, by the way, just sort of showing you what the case is being made there, but it's really sitting with me, my rage now at people who have the gall to sit in the pro-Trump camp and laugh and cheer and have a ball of a time watching this moment in the pro-democracy movement with no introspection is the word I keep coming back to, but just no willingness to look at themselves and go, wait, what if we had that amount of humility? What would that look like? What if we weren't a cult? What would that look like? Well, I can tell you what it would look like. The Law and Order Party wouldn't be supporting the convicted felon. The pro-Constitution Conservative Party would not be supporting the guy who called for the termination of the Constitution. Also, the We Value the Constitution people would not be supporting the guy who wants to brazenly violate, I should say, by going after media outlets, violating the freedom of the press. The Family Values Party would not be supporting the person who was found in a court of law in a civil trial to have sexually abused a woman. That finding coming after he was on audio tape bragging about sexually abusing people. The Family Values Party wouldn't be supporting the person who cheated on his wife who was home with a porn star. If you had an ounce of humility and weren't a cult, maybe you would be having a very serious conversation about your guy. And that really drives me crazy because they're too giddy. Woo, this is so funny, yeah. They're doubting Biden. But the takeaway from the comparison between the discussion that has been had, or even George Clooney saying what he did, and what we've seen with the Republican Party lining up behind Trump, that isn't reflecting well on the Republican Party. I think it's a sign of our strength as a movement that we can doubt. And then, if Biden stays on the ticket, this movement will explain to people why it is that he needs to win and Trump needs to lose. Let me know what you thought of that in the comments. If you want to get extra content every single day on weekdays and support the work that we do, you can do so by clicking the join button below.